Good day folks, Sean here from Air Photography. So I'm a little late getting at this video, but about a week ago DJI released a firmware update for the Mavic 4 Pro which adds some interesting new features. If we take a look at the release notes here, you can see this firmware version is version 01.00.0300, and if we look at the release notes here, you can see it added support for switching the camera's focal lengths while recording. And we're going to take a look at all this here coming up in a minute. They've also added support for setting a dynamic home point while using the RC2. Now that's not a new feature, the dynamic home point, but up until this firmware update, you could only use the RC Pro 2. So now it's available on the RC2. And the other thing that they've done in this firmware update is they've made a new menu system, kind of how we access some of the settings while filming vertical. And again, we'll take a look at that. Now yesterday I uploaded a video showing how to set a dynamic home point while using the RC2. Now I was demonstrating on the Mini 5 Pro, but it works exactly the same way with the Mavic 4 Pro. So if you're wondering what the dynamic home point is and how it works, definitely go and watch that video. I'll include a link to it down in the description of this video. So I'm going to go ahead and power the drone on here so we can take a look at some of these new changes. Now I've got the drone turned on and the fan has come on, so it might get a little noisy here. But what they've done, the first thing here, is it allows us to change focal lengths while we're recording. Now before this firmware update, it took a few extra steps. If we were filming in 1x and we wanted to go to the 2.5x camera, we had to stop recording, switch to the new focal length, and then tap the record button again. But now if we're recording, you can see there I'm in the 1x camera, but I can tap on 2.5x. And what you'll notice happens there is that it stops recording automatically, switches to the 2.5 camera, and then starts recording automatically. So we're not going to end up with one video file. It's going to have separate video files because it stops recording every time, but it does save you a few steps. Same when I tap on the 6x camera. You can see there it stopped recording, switched to the 6x camera, and then automatically started recording again. So it is actually a nice update because there's been a few times where I'm switching cameras and I forget to hit that record button again. So definitely a welcome feature. Now the other thing that they've done here is change how we access some of the settings when filming in portrait. We can flip our gimbal vertically. In this mode, we're now filming in a lossless format. We're using the full sensor, so we're going to have a highest quality image. So what we can do though is now if we tap on our frame rate and resolution, you can see we get this new menu. At the top you can see it says lossless and cropped. Under lossless again we're using the full sensor and we can set the resolution at 1080 4K or cinematic 4K, and we can go from 60 frames per second down to 24 frames per second. But if you want to have full range of the motion, now we can click on cropped. It rotates the gimbal back to a normal position so the gimbal has full range. And it's kind of like how it was before. You can see we have the cropped center, so that's what's going to be saved to the memory card. But we can get more creative with the gimbal. It's not going to be limited to the up and down motion. With it, we can only set the resolution at 4K, but for the frame rate, we can go from 24 frames per second up to 60 frames per second. So it's a nice little update. They've organized it. You can access these settings all in one menu now. So yeah, folks, that's the new firmware update for the DJI Mavic 4 Pro. Again, this firmware came out about a week ago. I believe it was September 25th. You'll need to update the firmware on the drone and the controller, especially if you have the RC2. You will need to update to the latest firmware in order to utilize that new dynamic home point. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and found it had value. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.